So there was this amazing article going around the internet a while ago about the Pixar Theory. Basically that all Pixar movies take place in the same universe and tell one amazing story. Now this is just a fun little thing that a guy threw together in his free time, but it still blew my mind. So here is the story of the robot uprising. The story begins with Brave, since this movie takes place during the Dark Ages. Now plenty of Pixar movies take place around things that are kind of unreal. For instance, the toys in Toy Story, the cars in Cars, WALL-E and WALL-E. But Brave has something that has never before been seen or explained in the Pixar universe. Magic. Out in a cottage in the woods lives an old witch who brews up a little potion and makes a little cake for Merida that turns her mother and eventually her 3 little brothers into bears. On top of that, the witch's cottage has a living broom, a talking bird, and she's a retired potions mixer. Need I say more? Now, according to the theory, this is the first point in the Pixar timeline where animals were starting to gain intelligence. If you remember from Brave, Merida's mother was still acting like herself as a human even though she was a bear. Where else do we see this kind of behavior? Ratatouille, the story of a rat that wants to become a chef. Look at Up. Charles Muntz was hunting an extinct bird by using a league of intelligent dogs. And look at the ocean in Finding Nemo. Like every fish, crustacean, and aquatic mammal is smart enough to know where P. Sherman 42 Wallaby Way Sydney is. However, the animals aren't really the big picture in the Pixar universe. That's the machines. Take a look at The Incredibles, specifically Syndrome, basically the inventor of artificial intelligence. Syndrome created a series of machines that can learn from their surroundings and encounters to basically create his own superhuman genocide. Now, even though Syndrome dies at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, his research and all of his machines still live on the island. So The Incredibles takes place during the 1950s, and it basically ends with the machines thinking we can't get rid of humans using a brute force attack because they have super people and armed military, so how else do we get rid of mankind? By starting a faceless corporation. By and large. We see evidence of B&L during Toy Story 3, but they make their big appearance during WALL-E as the corporation running the Axiom cruise liner. And in the history of B&L Short and WALL-E, we learn that by this time in the future, they are the world leader in world leaders, on top of miscellaneous other good products. Now in WALL-E, we learned that mankind has been abandoned in space by order of the president because Earth has become too polluted. Now pollution comes from many sources, from factories, from waste, and from sentient cars that are roaming the Earth. So, end of WALL-E, what happened? What little handful of mankind is left comes back to repopulate Earth, the sprout in a boot turns into a mighty tree, as we see from the end credits, and sooner or later the captain, I guess, learns that pizza can't be planted. So by and large created a company that took over the world and shipped mankind out into space, where they could now live happily as cars and other sentient things down on Earth. However, the oil crisis got the best of them, and after a few hundred years, all that's left is a small solar-powered robot who ends up overturning the whole robot apocalypse thing. But before all of that happened, animals were sentient. What happened there? Did they all die off from pollution, or did they slowly mutate into something even greater? Now here's where things get awesome. All the Doctor Who stuff is about to come in here. It's thought that in Monsters, Inc., all of the doors take them to a separate dimension, the human dimension, but actually, it's a separate time. Remember that all of these doors are being powered by human screams. Now in Monsters, Inc., we learned that there was an energy crisis going on. I don't know, that might be in part because there's only like 500 people now on Earth who got off of the Axiom and WALL-E, rebuilt society, and started on some gluten-free diets. Quick note, in the Pixar timeline, I believe they are saying that Monsters, Inc. takes place after mankind has actually died out. Now, every monster in that movie knows that humans are toxic to the touch. Why is that? One thought is that the higher-ups don't want them to accidentally change their timeline and, do something that prevents everyone from existing, and so they just put the fear in everyone's mind that humans are toxic. But on the other hand, humans had to abandon Earth because we polluted it so much that created monsters. One note to be made about Monsters, Inc. While all the power may be coming from human screams, the time travel wizardry itself is coming from somewhere else. Wood. Every door in Monsters, Inc. is made out of wood, but as we see in Monsters University, a door can be restarted from the other side using enough power. So monsters seem to have this whole time travel thing under control, but there is one person, one human, who has witnessed it. A little girl named Boo. Fun fact, did you know her name is Mary? Has nothing to do with the Pixar Theory, it's just thought it was kind of cool. She wrote her name on the pictures that she drew of Randall, so her name's Mary. So Mary learned about time travel, had a great adventure with some awesome new friends, and then she is left to grow up alone. So what happens to Mary? Well, in the end of Monsters, Inc., we see that Sully comes back to visit her, but he probably had to stop sooner or later. So maybe Mary figured out that the secret to time travel is actually inside of wood, and she uses that to try and find her friend. She grows up, jumping all over the Pixar timeline, until finally she settles on a small cottage in the woods where she becomes a witch and a potion brewer, but after too many failed attempts, she retires and becomes a wood carver. Just as the witch from Brave was saying about her magic broom, wood can be bestowed with magical properties, and she even used magic doors to travel between her home and her workplace. Now this old witch could be anybody, or it could also be nobody. Why does it have to be Boo? Pixar loves hiding Easter eggs in all of their movies, but all of the Easter eggs in Brave are in Mary's cabin, including a wood carving of Sully hanging out in the background, Mary's best friend who she traveled through all of time and space to find. So the entire Pixar universe is one ultimate story about a girl trying to find her best friend and the robot uprising. Well done, Pixar. If you have 20 free minutes, I definitely recommend you check out the article. It's a long one, but it covers a lot of things that I couldn't get into. For instance, the Easter eggs that we see throughout the Pixar universe, like Jessie in Monsters, Inc., may have been moved around because of Mary's time-traveling adventures. And the tree that grows out of the boot in WALL-E is actually the same tree where Bug's life takes place many years later. The link to the full article is down in the description. Have a great week, guys.